Hi, Lee.
Hi, Madam. Hey, are you at school?
No, no, I'm just in
Oh,
my
okay.
room.
Oh, okay. Very good. Yeah, I wondered about whether or not this was a good time to.
No, no, it's completely fine. I'm
Okay.
doing just resting, relaxing.
Okay. Did you get to have dinner already?
No, no, it's right now it's 31. We will be running at about 9 o'clock. 9.
Okay. Uh, Good. I know Anand and Subham said that time would work, so I think they'll be joining shortly.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this: are you able to see the screen if we were to share it?
I'm seeing right now. Yes, yes.
No, yeah. I'm not sharing the screen at the moment, but I'm wondering if I did, would you be able to see it?
Yeah, I can see that.
Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, nice. Yeah, cool. Yeah, now you're sharing the screen. That's great.
Figuring out how to use
Nice. And Garish, good morning.
Yeah, hey, I'm sorry. Hey, good morning. Yeah, I was on mute.
Hey, good morning. Oh, there he is. Very good. What kind of coffee cup do you have there, Garish?
It's a very old one actually. It's just like I think the first coffee cup I got that I landed in Canada. I've been having it for like 15 years.
No kidding, man. If the stories that coffee cup could tell.
Yeah.
Does it happen to have? Oh yeah, that's right. Do you have? You don't literally have coffee in there, do you? Or do you? Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You drink coffee. It's just yeah, yeah. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
I mean, are you talking about the black rings, black color in it? Yeah, it happens, but like, I use vinegar. I kind of soak it in vinegar, like, for some time, and then it's usually gone. It's pretty effective.
Okay. Yeah. No, yeah. Yeah. We get hard water at my house, and so
Gotcha.
the raw water seems to ruin everything, and we get minerals that build up.
Wow.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
vinegar works pretty well, like you said.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Awesome.
Tell me if you can see. Oh, geez. So, tell me if you can see what kind of coffee cup I have. Do you recognize that one?
Yeah, the Seagate.
Seagate. Yep. Seagate. Yep. I'm happy to not be working there anymore. uh, I was there for about a year, leading. Well, uh, well, actually, in some respects, I was going to say working with students, but just a fair number of PhDs who who were focused on trying to figure out algorithms that would help us detect when hard. And we did. Turns out you can just back up your data and you're fine. Anyway, so I'm glad that we have you. Thanks for joining middle of the week. I wanted to make sure that we're spending time, like, in a smaller group with you guys so that we can talk more, so we can hear more from you and make sure that you're learning things and you've got interesting work uh, on your plate. And so let me ask you a few questions. Let me tell you about some work that we've got. Also ask you some questions. Just of the things that you've done thus far, by the way, I know I said this to, I remarked to Garish earlier this week, saying, hey, of the things that Madhav has done, they've been spot on. They've been the things that I had described, and they worked. And I mostly just had to go merge the pull request. That was nice. It's good. So, so far, good work. Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Good work, mother.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Let me ask you this: of the things that you've done thus far, have you learned anything yet, or has any of it been challenging just yet? Or has it been too easy?
No, I'm also learning like Django. I think you have used to build this layer 5 IO. I think so. I'm learning this how to use it. So that's it.
Okay. And, and I actually missed the first part of what you said. Garish, I don't know if you heard it, but Madhav, you said.
Yeah, I think you have used Django. I think Django, the framework of Python.
Oh, okay.
I'm learning it.
Oh, okay. Are you learning that as part of your coursework at school?
No, just to have some knowledge about it.
Oh, okay. Huh. There's well, there were a few challenges that, by the way, Madhav, as you, like in your focus, I know when we'd spoken and kind of caught up before, more of your focus had been toward front end, or at least more than Subhams and Anands. Is the front end a bit more of your continued focus? Is that a place where you want to develop even more skills?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, then, so I've mentioned it on the community call a couple of times, this challenge. And there's another challenge that I haven't mentioned that I think is also interesting. It's also something that I look for almost every day, and I don't have. And it's not just me, but it's the rest of the community, I think, would find it very interesting. So the first challenge is a little bit of a big one, and it's a dedicated project site for Meshery. Okay. And it would be a project site under the domain meshery.dev. I think I'd mentioned that in the past. Do you have a sense of what that means?
No, I don't know about that.
Okay, yeah, I'll describe it. Let me actually, Anand just messaged. I'm gonna give him a link to the meeting here real quick.
I thought Anand was also joining the call. Was he not?
Not, yep. He just messaged you. Madhav, I'll say this. I'll put this into our chat so that it's easier to, in case it's easier to see, in case it's hard to kind of hear me say it. But so we have registered a new domain, meshery.dev. And if you visit the link, right now it just redirects you to layer5io/meshery. And that's okay. I think, yeah. That's okay. Although the reason that we registered that domain was to create a dedicated project site. The thinking there is that, one, the docs and the project itself can maybe come together a little bit more closely. The other thinking is that the is that Meshery may ultimately be donated, or, well, yeah, I don't know if that's the right, well, yeah, Meshery may ultimately be donated to the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, the CNCF. Now, if that happens, that doesn't mean that we wouldn't continue to work on it, maintain it, build new functionality, do all the same things that we're doing. As a matter of fact, if that happens, that means that there's probably a lot more people that would be interested and come to bear. That means that the community would grow fairly quickly, hopefully, which would be a good thing. In order for that to happen, though, it would be good to get its own dedicated project site. So that's one of our challenges. Does that challenge make sense, or that piece of work? You know what I'm talking about? Huh. No. I don't know why people have to be admitted. And then I think it takes a second for people to connect audio. So.
Oh, Madhav dropped.
Yeah.
You did have a lot of background noise. That was interesting.
Hey, Anand, are you there?
I don't think he joined the audio yet.
So, Grisha, there's two things I was gonna ask him. There's the Meshery dev thing, which makes sense. But
Right.
like between Anand, Subham, and him, actually, they don't, well, shit, this is probably a bad ask, because I want us to have it this week, as versus waiting for these guys to do it. But it would be to, what do you call it? It would be to expose the either instrument, the social login, to have a count, so that we can just have a metric that says someone signed up today or used the thing today, and it's kind of, it would be two metrics. It would be a new user or just a returning user. I mean,
When you mean like a metric, what kind of a response are you expecting? Like, are you expecting it to see in the UI, or like, are you expecting it to trigger an event?
It could just be triggering an event, like sending a metric to amplitude or mix panel or segment, or like some other third-party SaaS service that we.
Okay. Now that has to be done from the Meshery SaaS. Yeah. So. Because that's where we're maintaining the state. So, so Meshery SaaS exactly knows like, what's happening. Is this a new user? We have all the right spots where we can actually do all that.
Totally.
Yeah.
Hey, Anand, looks like your audio is up. Hey, Madhav and Anand, are you guys on?
Yeah, having some problem with my internet, but I can hear you.
Cool. Yep, we hear you, Madhav.
Yeah.
And then I think Anand, his audio might be there, but Anand, the signal, if you can hear us, I don't know. Madhav, in the meantime, did you catch most of what I was saying about meshery.dev?
Yeah.
I think the thinking there is that the site would probably be a Jekyll-based site, almost entirely because we can run that for free on GitHub Pages, and because it's something that most of us know, come to learn, and you've come to learn Jekyll, and so has Anand and Sulam, as you guys have worked on this, or learn it to a certain extent. So one, so it sounds like you understand that. Hey, Anand, can you hear us?
Yeah,
There
I
you go.
think actually it's just
Sure. Um, well, there was really there's a couple of things I wanted to achieve with you guys. I wanted to describe a couple of projects. I wanted to make sure that we just got some time for you to talk. On the community calls, either I won't shut up, or then Grease starts talking and he talks about all the work he did. Great, but then he won't shut up, and then we don't give you guys any time to talk. And so I just wanted to hear from you guys about how the project is going for you, how whether or not you're learning anything, whether or not there's certain areas that you're really interested in but you haven't gotten a chance to do something within, and just kind of generally hear how school is going, stuff like that. And so maybe just as a reminder to me, both of you guys are graduating in about a year, right? Like maybe toward this next May.
yeah, sir.
Got it. Nice. Oh, hey, speaking of, there was seemed to be a fine young gentleman who connected with me on LinkedIn, Abhishek. I'll look up his last name. Did you guys tell anybody about like the layer 5 community and point Abhishek this way?
Not directly, but we shared it on the social, college with some friends like me.
Okay, cool. You ended up sharing the flyer.
Yeah, actually I've started.
Dude, nice. Okay. I'll send you a link to his profile and see if you guys know him. Because he connected on LinkedIn, but he didn't say anything. And so I'm not sure, he hasn't said anything, but he's a student at ACM UEM Yapur. Let me grab his, here. I'll put the link to his profile in Slack. Abhishek Tiwari.
Oh yeah, Abhishek Tiwari. Okay, I think I know him.
Okay, he is my friend at least. Actually, he has gone through my LinkedIn account, find you. So I guess he just try to connect you. That's it.
Awesome. That's cool. Yeah, hopefully you guys will hopefully as you guys describe the project to him, if he's got an interest, he'll feel free to welcome him to the Slack or what have you, tell him about the project, see if there's something that he's interested in.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, sure. Good result.
All right, so by the way, the Zoom that we're on, it's kind of nice. I think it works pretty well, but much like everything that we're doing here, most of it is free. And so this free account, it will cut off after 30 minutes. So we've got about 20 more minutes left. There's two items I wanted to describe to you guys. I described, I think, part of one of these to Subham in the past. There is a component of Meshery that you guys have seen in architecture deck. I'm going to pull up the architecture deck and share it with you. It's called Meshery Cloud, and I'm going to describe this piece of work, and we'll see if this is an area that you guys could help out with or not. I'm not sure. But in Meshery docs, there's the architecture section. Are both of you guys able to see my screen?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Cool, very cool. Okay. It's a little bit, okay, let me ask you this. I've gone like full screen on one slide. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So there's a component of Meshery that we don't talk about much, and it really doesn't do much, but it to be a public service for everyone. And it's got two names. It's called Meshery Cloud. Right now, the name that it had, the repository that it's in is Meshery SaaS, but we just need to rename that to be Meshery Cloud. This small component, it's a small binary that helps with signing people in. So when you go to run Meshery and you need to establish a session, there's a few things that are enacted, a few pieces of technology that come to bear. One of those is AWS API Gateway, and you don't really see it in this diagram, and it's a little bit behind the scenes. If you guys ever need to interact with it, we can get you access and kind of show you what's going on there. And so it just helps facilitate directing traffic to the right place. So when someone establishes a session, it helps direct them over to this small piece of Go code that's running in a very small EC2 instance. It's also running inside a container. So this small piece of Go code, this small Go binary called Meshery Cloud, well, it helps facilitate the the creation of a session, the authentication of people through a social, through the 3 different social logins. It also helps facilitate the recording of performance test results. So here's a point of interest that you got. I don't think anyone, as a matter of fact, I'm going to show you this, and I don't know that anyone other than Garish and myself have seen this. At some point, we want for the whole world to see it. It just isn't at a point by which it's ready for anyone to see. So I'm going to pull up Meshery here real quick so you guys can see this same interface. So here's Meshery. I'm clicking to sign in. In this case, I'm signing in my Twitter account. So I'm just authorizing Meshery to connect to my Twitter account, or connect to my Twitter account to be able to get authenticate me as a user, so that people aren't abusing the app and things. The other reason why is so that after I've run a performance test and the results are collected, yes, I will see them on the screen, but you can also go back in time and look at the results. And I'm sure that you guys are familiar with this. You can go back and look at your old results, which is great. It's very helpful. But as an administrator, you're able to go in and see everyone's results. Now, as an administrator, even I and Garish, we don't know whose results these are per se, or at least not in the application here. But they're being anonymized and collected so that later on we can publish the results, the anonymous results back to the world, so to speak, to give people a bunch of information about the average cost of running a service mesh. And so it's this component that it needs a bit of help. One piece of help that there's a piece of data that I think that we should be tracking in our community calls, that we should be publicizing, and that is how many new users are coming to use the open source project. Like how many new users are coming to use Meshery. And so that would just be a count of how many times a new user is clicking to log in. That's one metric. The other metric is how many times it is that people are using the tool. And it would be like, whether it's an existing user or a new user, it doesn't matter. We would like to have that count and then keep track of it in our community call. And so given this architecture, let me go back to the architecture. This is the one we were looking at a second ago. Given this architecture, in order to make that count, to count how many new users there are and how many existing users there are, that those sessions are recorded inside of this Postgres database. This Postgres database is running in AWS RDS. It's just running in AWS. If I go to this next slide, so now I've changed slides, some of the technologies that we're using in AWS, are written on this page. So API gateway, I guess Garish stays updated. But instead of DynamoDB, this is a Postgres database. There's an EC2 instance running here, running Meshery Cloud. And so the reason I bring it up with you guys is to say, well, in order to expose these data points, it probably requires two changes in Meshery Cloud. One to write a query in Go to query the database and pull back the count of sessions. And then another change in the UI to show that count. Because right now, in order to get that count, you have to log into the database and run SQL commands. And the problem is, like, I can do that, Krish can do that, but nobody else can. And so we want to open that up so that everybody can see how many users are using the tool. Does anyone even care? And answer those questions. Does this piece of work make sense? Does this?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
So what questions do you have about it? So, okay. So not hearing any questions. Let me tell you some more things about it. One, this particular component of Meshery Cloud is excuse me, is in a different location within GitHub. It's just under a different org. Under layer 5 IO. We can get you guys access to this org. There's a repository called Meshery SaaS. It needs to be renamed to Meshery Cloud, and it's just a small Go program that has very little UI to it. The UI that it does have to it is what you see in terms of logging in. So there's a login page that just has the social login, sign in with Twitter, GitHub, Google. There would basically need to be a new HTML page that would expose the count of the number of users that are signing in. And that count needs to be collected from the Postgres RDS database. And so there would need to be probably a new like data, a new query written, a new data access I guess, Girish, how would you describe that? A new set of functions written to retrieve the count of users?
Right. Yeah. New data access points. Fundamentally, there are methods here. So you can see every method here pretty much is accessing. Yeah, you can see it actually has a queries. Line number 32, for example, has queries. So you can actually just follow patterns and then write queries and then invoke it from the handler. So that way we can actually get a count of the active users here.
Uh, uh, understood.
And so this set of work hasn't been written up, but I wanted to describe it to you guys in case it makes sense and it's something that you think you might be able to take on.
Yeah, I have actually worked with this type of project later before also in SQL. Okay, but I'm not familiar with the MongoDB, which is NoSQL. So I don't have any idea about that. Would I take it or not?
Right. Yeah. You know what? I think that's okay because the database itself, it's just SQL. It's a Postgres DB. I know on
Okay.
the slide it said DynamoDB. That's wrong. We need to update the slide. It's just SQL. So that's one piece of work, which could be interesting. Could be something you guys both jump into. The other piece of work is about creating the Meshery dev site. And maybe, like I said, if I go to meshery.dev right now, it just redirects to layer 5.io. That project might be easier for you guys to get started with. I'm not sure. What do you think? Do you, and I guess I'm kind of looking at Madhav when I ask this question, like, Madhav, do you want to?
Yeah, I can try on it, but in SQL only, not in MongoDB.
Gotcha. Yep. Okay. Okay. As I sit here and think it over, I'm not sure if you guys will be successful with this ask around the Meshery cloud stuff. In part because it'll require some Go. It'll require potentially access to AWS. It'll require writing some new file or new HTML inside of here. Maybe one thing to do would be instead of maybe jumping in here, Madhav, how does it sound if you were to go take a look at different Jekyll themes and try to pick one that you think looks good for a project like Meshery, and maybe we can go about the process of creating that new site, finding a new home for it, and designing something.
Yeah, I can try it.
Yeah, and
I'll explain that. Maybe we can try to search uh, as like maybe trying on the Girish will take care of the review of the code. I think that
okay, Anand, I don't know that we could hear what you said. I think you were saying, hey, maybe you could try the Meshery cloud stuff and get
yeah. I think I can try on it.
Okay. Okay.
And for the task that you gave me earlier for checking the containers are running or not, I have a question on that. What if the containers are not running? So what should the next move?
Yeah, that's a good question. We would ideally, so Garish and I were talking about this a little bit earlier. If the Meshery containers, the adapters are not running, really the logs that are helpful there are the logs from the orchestrator. So mostly we would focus on Kubernetes, on retrieving the Kubernetes logs. Some of that might be difficult depending upon, I think it would be helpful to the extent that the Meshery adapters are not running. Meshery could collect Kubernetes logs, but if Meshery is not running, or Meshery can't connect to Kubernetes, then we're kind of in trouble. I think it's a hard area to get into, but there could be some improvements done. There's some code that's about to land for checking the connection of adapters. That code could be enhanced to do some additional diagnostic, like you're saying.
Uh, I understand that. Understood that. Yes, right. The connection between the connection of adapters to the machine. But when we do the machine start command, then it starts the containers and then it shows a link 90, 908. I think. So before that, we have to check that all the containers are running or not. As that issue,
Right. Yeah,
that
yeah.
I understood. So for that, I was asking that I will check that containers are running or not. And if the containers are not running, so uh, for now I can just for just now I can do that. It will just restart, or if or else it will just notify the user that it's not able to start. So maybe it can diagnose itself, or give the status of the machinery, like by executing the Messery status command.
That makes sense. Yeah, maybe you would show the user on the command line. Maybe you would show them the Docker logs for the
Yeah,
container that failed to run. Yeah.
yeah, that's all. That's,
Yeah, that makes sense. That would be helpful. I think in certain circumstances, it would make sense to try to restart the container. In many other circumstances, it wouldn't. It would be something like, it can't start because there's not enough disk space on their laptop, like they ran out of space to have the image, or it can't start because they're not connected to the internet, or they lost connection, so it's having a hard time pulling down the image from Docker Hub. Or I don't know, those two things come to mind. And so, yeah, the Docker logs can help in both of those cases. And yeah, I think that also, rather than if all of those containers aren't up, or if Meshery itself is not running, not opening up the browser to a blank page, that would be nice. Yeah, to hold on for a minute, wait until Meshery's up, and then open up the browser, because it's a bad experience.
yeah, yeah. But I think I will just complete that one. That issue. 2 or 3 days. Actually, I'm going to have an interview, so I'm still with that.
That sounds great. That sounds perfect. When you're working on that, as you talk to Subham, he's also looking at a Linux-friendly command for opening up the browser. Because right now we have...
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I had a talk with him it's not a big deal for him. We can just maybe we can do that in a same issue or just do that in a separate his work.
Gotcha. Okay. Hey, our call is going to cut off here in a moment. We can chat just a bit more in Slack, but I think we figured out where our focus is. Anand, for you on what you just said, and Madhav, maybe we can go back and forth a little bit on an outline and a structure for what we think that Meshery dev will look like. You know, how it will describe the project, you know, how it will engage with people.
Okay.
Yeah, how maybe we can try to bring the documentation closer to the site as well. Does none of you guys have gone through Google Analytics training by chance, have you?
Not
Okay. Okay. Well, maybe you'll get a chance to touch some Google Analytics now, which is good. Okay, this has been good. We're going to get like cut off.